She thought she was safe, until she saw the boots of the vampire king who finally found her. No one in the northern valleys said his name after sunset. They spoke of him only in lowered voices, as if the mountains themselves might carry the sound to his ears. The vampire king, a ruler who did not age, a shadow who walked beneath moonlight without sound, a sovereign whose boots were said to be made from midnight leather and polished with the oil of extinguished stars. Children were warned that if they wandered too far from home, the king would find them, not in anger but in quiet certainty. No one agreed on what he would do once he did. And so fear grew in the empty spaces where truth never entered. Ava had heard the stories all her life. She lived at the edge of Blackthorn Forest, where the trees grew so close together they seemed to whisper among themselves. Her cottage stood alone, stitched together with old timber and hope. After her father died in a winter fever and her mother faded quietly the year after, Ava learned how to survive in silence. She gathered herbs, she traded dried flowers in the nearby village, she kept to herself. She also kept a lantern burning at night. Not because she feared the dark, but because she feared what might be walking through it. It was said the vampire king ruled from a castle carved into the cliffs beyond the forest. It was said he commanded storms, that wolves bowed their heads when he passed, that he fed not just on blood but on sorrow. Ava did not know what to believe. But she did know this. Every winter, when snow buried the valley in white silence, bundles of firewood appeared stacked neatly against her cottage wall. Every spring, when frost threatened to kill her fragile herb seedlings, someone covered them with glass cloches during the coldest nights. And once, only once, when she had fainted from hunger while gathering berries too far from home, she had woken beneath her own blankets, a bowl of warm broth waiting beside her bed. She had told herself it was a neighbor, even though no neighbor lived close enough to reach her unnoticed. Even though the footprints in the snow outside her door had been far too large. She tried not to think about that. The world beyond Blackthorn feared the vampire king with certainty. They told stories of his armies of night creatures. They described crimson eyes and merciless judgments. They blamed him for missing livestock, failed crops, and unexplained shadows. Yet no one could point to a single village he had burned. No one could name a single war he had started. They simply feared what they did not understand. And the king never corrected them. In truth, King Lucian had grown accustomed to being misunderstood. Immortality had taught him many things. Chief among them, it was easier for humans to fear him than to trust him. Fear required no explanation. Kindness from a creature like him would only raise suspicion. So he ruled quietly from the cliffs, maintaining balance in ways the world would never see. He drove away predators when livestock grew scarce. He redirected storms when harvests were fragile. He ensured that sickness spreading in one valley did not cross into another. He did it without witnesses, without gratitude, without ever stepping into the sunlight that would betray what he was. And yet, of all the quiet lives beneath his protection, one small cottage at the forest's edge held his attention more than it should have. Ava, he did not know when he first noticed her. Perhaps it was the night she stood in the rain, trying to repair her broken roof with trembling hands rather than waiting for help that would never come. Perhaps it was the way she sang softly to herself while hanging herbs to dry, as though the forest were an audience deserving beauty. Or perhaps it was simply that she did not curse his name when the villagers spoke of him. She listened, but she did not join in. That alone felt rare. The night she saw his boots, she believed she was safe. A traveling merchant had warned her that wolves had been seen near the southern ridge. So she returned home early, bolted her door, and stirred a pot of lentil stew over the hearth. Wind pressed against the cottage walls, the lantern flickered. Ava told herself it was only weather. Until the wind stopped. Not faded, stopped. The silence that followed felt alive. She stood slowly, heart thudding, not in terror but in awareness. There, beneath the narrow gap of her wooden door, she saw them. Boots, tall, black, still as carved stone. Facing inward, he had found her. Every story she had ever heard rushed into her throat, drying it. She waited for the door to break open. For claws, for red eyes, for something monstrous. Instead, there was only a knock. Soft, measured, 3 gentle taps. Ava's breath trembled. She could pretend she was not home. But something in the stillness outside did not feel violent. It felt patient. She stepped forward, unlatched the door, opened it just enough to see the figure beyond. He was taller than any man she had known. Dark hair fell neatly past his collar. His coat was long, simple, unadorned. His face was pale, not corpse-like, but moonlit. His eyes were not red. They were gray and tired. Up close, he did not look like a monster. He looked like someone who had lived too long. "I will not enter unless invited," he said quietly. His voice held no threat, no hunger, only restraint. Ava swallowed. "Why are you here?" A faint breeze shifted the hem of his coat. He seemed almost uncertain. "There are wolves in the southern ridge," he said. "They are not natural. Something has driven them closer to the village. I came to warn you." The explanation was so ordinary, it unsettled her more than menace would have. "You came to warn me." "Oh, yes." She studied him. His boots were dusted with snow. His gloved hands hung loosely at his sides, not clenched, not reaching. "You could have sent someone." "I do not send others where I can go myself." The answer was simple, honest. Ava hesitated only a moment longer before opening the door wider. "You may come in," she said. He paused as if confirming she meant it. Then he stepped inside. The air shifted, cooler but not suffocating. He removed his gloves first, then stood near the door rather than approaching the fire. "I will not stay long," he said. "You're cold," Ava replied before thinking. A faint smile touched his mouth. "Cold does not trouble me." She poured stew into a bowl anyway. He looked at it as though unsure what to do. "You don't have to eat," she said quickly. I remember food," he said softly. "It has been a long time." He accepted the bowl. He did not devour it, did not flinch or grimace. He ate slowly, thoughtfully, as if reacquainting himself with something fragile. Ava watched his hands. They were steady. Not claws, not talons. Just hands. "Why does everyone fear you?" she asked, unable to hold the question back. He considered that. "Because I allow them to." "That's not an answer." "It is the only one that keeps them safe." She frowned. He set the empty bowl aside. "If they see me as powerful," he continued, "they do not challenge me. If they do not challenge me, they do not provoke wars they cannot survive." Understanding dawned slowly, like light behind clouds. "You protect them," she said. "I maintain balance." "That's not the same thing." For the first time, something warmer flickered in his gray eyes. "No," he admitted, "it is not." A sudden howl cut through the night, closer than before. Ava stiffened. Lucian was already standing. "Stay inside," he said gently. "You can't face them alone." A faint, almost amused breath escaped him. "Ava, I have faced centuries." He moved toward the door. She caught his sleeve without thinking. He looked down at her hand, not with irritation but surprise. "Be careful," she whispered. Something changed in his expression then, something fragile. "I always am," he said. He stepped into the dark. Ava waited by the window, heart pounding, not from fear of him but fear for him. The howls grew louder, then stopped abruptly. No snarling, no screams, only silence. After several long minutes, the forest exhaled again. The wind returned. Snow drifted gently. When Lucian stepped back into view, there was no blood on his coat. No violence in his posture. Only calm. "They will not return," he said simply. "How?" "I reminded them where they belonged." She believed him. Not because she understood how, but because nothing in him suggested cruelty. He moved toward the door once more. "You're leaving." "Oh, yes." "You could stay until morning." He hesitated. "I am not accustomed to being welcomed." "Maybe you should be." He studied her face, as if searching for mockery and finding none. Very slowly, he removed his coat and draped it over the back of her chair. He remained near the hearth through the night, not sleeping, not feeding, simply sitting in quiet companionship while Ava rested. When dawn approached, he stood. Sunlight edged the horizon in pale gold. "You should go," she murmured sleepily. "Oh yes." He stepped outside just before the first ray touched the treetops. But before he disappeared into shadow, he turned back. "You were never in danger from me," he said. "I think I knew that," Ava replied. In the weeks that followed, whispers in the village changed. The wolves were gone. Crops previously threatened by frost flourished unexpectedly. A sickness that had begun in a neighboring town never reached their valley. No one knew why. Ava did. Sometimes at night, she left a lantern burning, not from fear but from welcome. Sometimes she found fresh firewood stacked neatly by morning. And once, on the coldest evening of early spring, she opened her door to find a single black rose resting on her step. No thorns. She never told the others what she had seen. They would not understand that fear had been a shield he wore, not a weapon he used. They would not believe that the vampire king chose restraint every day of his endless life. But she understood. And somewhere beyond the forest, in a castle carved from stone and solitude, a king who had been feared for centuries allowed himself, just once, to feel something dangerously close to peace. The world still whispered his name with trembling voices. They still imagined red eyes in the dark. But in a small cottage at the forest's edge, a lantern glowed warmly each night. And whenever heavy boots stood quietly at the door, there was no longer fear in Ava's heart. Only the quiet realization that sometimes the most feared figure in the world is simply the one carrying the heaviest kindness alone. And that true goodness does not always demand to be seen. Sometimes it only asks to be understood. She thought she was safe, until she saw the boots of the vampire king who finally found her. No one spoke the vampire king's name after sunset. In the northern valleys, he was a shadow in every story, a ruler feared, unseen, and immortal. They said his boots echoed like fate itself. They said he fed on sorrow. They said if he ever found you, there would be no escape. Ava had grown up hearing those whispers. She lived alone at the edge of Blackthorn Forest in a small wooden cottage her father once built. Since her parents passed, she survived quietly gathering herbs, trading in the village, and keeping a lantern lit each night. Not because she believed in monsters, but because she feared what might be real. And yet, strange things happened around her home. Every winter, firewood appeared stacked beside her wall. When frost threatened her fragile plants, someone covered them in the night. Once, after she collapsed from hunger deep in the forest, she woke safely in her own bed with warm soup waiting. She told herself it was kindness from a stranger. But no one lived close enough to care. One winter night, as wind pressed softly against her cottage, Ava felt a sudden stillness. The forest had gone silent. Then she saw them. Tall black boots beneath the crack of her door. Facing inward. Her heart pounded. The stories were true. The vampire king had found her. She waited for the door to burst open. Instead, there was a gentle knock. 3 soft taps. "I will not enter unless invited," a calm voice said from outside. The words startled her more than any threat could have. With trembling hands, she opened the door. He was tall, pale in the moonlight, dressed in a long, dark coat, but his eyes were not red with hunger. They were gray and tired. "There are wolves near the southern ridge," he said quietly. "I came to warn you." "You came to protect me?" she asked. "I maintain balance," he replied. There was no cruelty in him, no arrogance, only restraint. She stepped aside. "You may come in." He entered slowly, as if afraid to frighten her. He stood near the door, keeping distance from the firelight. Ava poured him a bowl of stew out of simple human instinct. He hesitated. "I remember food," he said softly, as if recalling a distant life. He ate slowly, thoughtfully, not like a monster, but like a man remembering warmth. Then a distant howl echoed through the forest. Ava stiffened. He rose calmly. "Stay inside." Before she could argue, he stepped into the night. The howls grew louder, then stopped. Silence returned. When he came back, there was no blood on him, no violence in his eyes. "They will not return," he said gently. "How did you stop them?" she whispered. "I reminded them where they belonged." He moved toward the door as dawn began to touch the horizon. "You were never in danger from me," he said. And somehow she believed him. After that night, the village changed in quiet ways. Crops survived harsh frost. Illness never reached their valley. No wolves came near again. The world still feared the vampire king. They still told dark stories. But Ava no longer listened. Sometimes she left her lantern glowing in the window, not from fear, but from welcome. And sometimes, just before dawn, she would find fresh firewood stacked neatly outside her door. The world saw a monster in the shadows. She saw something else. A king who allowed himself to be feared, so others would never have to be. And in the quiet forest, beneath the soft light of a single lantern, Ava understood something the world did not. Sometimes the most feared heart is the gentlest one. And true kindness does not demand to be seen. It simply protects and walks away before the sun rises.